Monty, you have been so instrumental in kind of pointing me in the right direction. And
it was about looking at your character defects in spirituality.
It's the integration of clinical practices with the 12 steps.
It's an absolute pleasure. He certainly knows a lot of people. He's got a lot of energy, and sometimes when you don't have so much energy, he picks you up and carries you.
Having the Monty'man there certainly helps.
This is one of the places that is about the business of the solution.
The views expressed on this special broadcast of the Take 12 radio show do not necessarily reflect those of KHLT Recovery Broadcasting or its affiliates. KHLT is not affiliated with any particular 12-step fellowship.
Now here's that guy who's getting less popular minute by minute, your host, the Monty'man.
Well, greetings, recovery family. Those of you in recovery, advocates of, and perhaps some of you who should be, welcome to another fine episode here at KHLT Recovery Broadcasting Studios. Take12radio.com on your internet dial. It's good to have you with us today. Hey, listen, our email address right off the bat, take12radio@comcast.net. That's TAKE, the number 12, radio@comcast.net. We now own the domain name take12radio.com spelled out, the entire word, not the number. So it doesn't matter if people ask you if you want to go to take12, TAKE12 radio.com or take12 spelled out. Either way, it'll bring you to our website. Hey, listen, we have our cartoon caption contest in full swing right now. We've got a lot of you guys this month. Man, I can't believe the amount of people that have entered. Thank you so much for that. And we're going to be announcing the winner for November's contest on the 27th on Open Forum Wednesday. So be tuning in on Wednesday to see if you've won. Now remember that when you enter, all you have to do is go to the website at take12radio.com and click on Recovery Cartoons, and it'll explain how the contest works. When you enter, even if you don't win this month, you are put into a drawing for a recovery basket with $300 worth of recovery goodies in there for you. We've got books, we've got CDs, we've got DVDs, we've got recovery music, we got stickers, we got all sorts of neat stuff for you just in time for Christmas, because we're going to give that away out in the beginning of December. And even if you don't win November, you could win the recovery basket. All right. And I want to point out that my guest today is one of our sponsors for the Cartoon Caption Contest. She has donated her book, On the Outside Looking In. My guest this week is Kathy Carniero. She is the author of a book called On the Outside Looking In. Her website, and I'm going to mention this several times during the show, her website is ontheoutsidelooking.net. I want you to visit that, particularly those of you who are advocates or family members or have loved ones, people that you care about, that are living with addiction, alcoholism, compulsivities, some of the things that so easily beset us. We all know that in reality there are no normies. I mean, everybody's got something that they need to get a handle on, and it can end up controlling their lives. But some of these things scream louder than others, and some of them have consequences that are incredibly devastating. And addiction, alcoholism, well, you've heard me talk about it before on the show. Addiction is the number one health issue in our country. Number one. It is affects and afflicts more people than any other malady, whether it's heart disease or cancer or HIV, or I mean, you just can't believe how many people are affected or afflicted with this thing. So my guest today is Kathy Carniero. Now let me tell you a little bit about Kathy. Kathy was born in Texas, and Kathy has always enjoyed writing poetry and short stories even as a child. She had her first poem published when she was 9 years old. She met her husband in 2000, and they were married in 2008. They are currently raising 3 beautiful children. Kathy began writing on The Outside Looking In a few years after her dad passed away in 2008. Her writing helped her with her healing process. During her years of living on the blind side of her dad's alcohol addiction, she often felt confused, lost, and defeated. The more she began to open up and talk to people about addiction, she realized she was not the only one struggling. She learned there are many people searching for answers and healing, and that's when On the Outside Looking In came to life. Kathy, welcome to the show.
Hello.
Now, are you still living in Texas?
Yes, I am still in Texas.
Okay. And how is Texas?
Texas is horrible right now because the weather can't decide if it wants to be winter or summer.
Oh no. I spent a short time in Texas. I was in Texas for about a year. I lived in Houston, and it was in the middle of my addiction. So the nice things about Texas I wasn't able to enjoy. So someday I hope to go back and participate in the human race.
It's a good little state.
Yeah. Well, Kathy, I commend you for this book. Oops, I almost dropped it. This book, listeners, is called On the Outside Looking In, Surviving the Blind Side of Addiction, and that's what it looks like to our YouTube folks.
Mm-hmm.
How hard was this for you to write?
Probably the hardest thing I've ever done in my entire life.
Yeah.
Also the most rewarding thing I've ever done also.
Well, take us on this journey a little bit. What is your personal relationship with addiction? What was going on?
Well, I'm not an addict, and so I knew nothing about addiction.
Right.
When my dad, I guess, began his addiction, I mean, we were completely lost and confused, and we had no idea because, I mean, we came from a family that nobody drank alcohol in our home. We weren't around it, and we really knew nothing about it. And so when he was in his active stages of addiction, I pretty much spent all of my time trying to research, finding out about what addiction was and what I could do to save him. And so, I mean, that became my life. I was obsessed with it pretty much. And so not being an addict, I didn't understand how he could drink himself into belligerent stages like he did. I didn't understand it.
Right.
And so that's what I have to do with addiction.
Yeah, because it is very confusing to the person on the outside, so to speak. Because we don't, we're like, why? And I watched Dr. Phil the other day, and they had a gentleman, I think his name was Todd. And the poor guy, he never even drank when he was 21. Mm-hmm. But then he won one of the seasons of Survivor. And he started at age 22. And he started associating with and hobnobbing with the rich and famous. And, of course, there were a lot of cocktail parties. And that's where he first got his taste of alcohol. And it wasn't very long before he was so bad that his body required it just to be able to not pass out. I mean, he became chemically dependent as well as addicted. And Dr. Phil understands addiction very well, but he asked the question that everybody else was asking. Todd, why are you doing this to yourself? Now, he knows why, but Todd doesn't even know why. Dr. Phil does, but... and so we ask that question, don't we? We're like, I mean, don't you understand how much we love you? Don't you understand that you're killing yourself? And did you ever ask your dad that?
Oh, all the time. And he actually made a comment at one time. He said, and it's in my book, he said, I drink because I don't feel good, but I don't feel good because I drink.
Right.
And so I never understood what that meant. And now I do, because I understood that mentally he was addicted, and his body was also chemically addicted. And so if he went without drinking, he got violently sick. But when he did drink to fix his sickness, then he got sick.
Sure.
So it's like a revolving door.
So why did you write the book?
I wrote the book. I started writing the book I guess, to help other families and other people just have the answers that we never had going through my dad's addiction. I read a lot of books when my dad was in his addiction trying to find answers, and the books that I read never gave me what I needed. I was always reading just other people's stories. Well, that didn't help me. I could relate a little bit, but it didn't help me. So in my book, I mean, I cover everything from addiction, from the beginning of it, the middle of it, the end of it, you know, what to do, what not to do, because I think that that's really important. There's a lot of things that we did wrong trying to help my dad, and I think if we would have known other ways to handle it, you know, things could have been different, may not have, it just depends. But yeah, I mean, we really didn't know anything. And so I think that this book has a lot of facts in it, a lot of advice. And plus, you know, my family being non-addicts, trying to help somebody who is in active stages of addiction, I think it helped tremendously hearing stories from people who are addicts in recovery, kind of telling me, you know, what this world is really about. That, I think, helped a lot. And people will get that out of the book, too. I mean, you'll hear a lot of testimonies from people in each stage of addiction.
Right. You have several stories of people in here that were kind enough to submit their stories to you and be very honest and open about what was going on with their malady. What was this hard? Was this painful for you to write this stuff? I mean, we're gonna talk about a letter that you wrote to your dad here in a little bit, but without going into that yet, when you were writing this stuff down, did this break your heart?
It did. I mean, I had times where I cried and got upset because reliving, you know, heartbreak is hard, and writing it on paper for everyone to read in the world is even harder. But I want people to know that they're not the only ones struggling. That, you know, I am too, and so is, you know, so many other people. And I think people hearing my struggles and reading my heartbreak will help them. But yeah, it was very hard. I mean, there were sometimes I was writing and I didn't want to finish because it was too hard to remember, you know, all the bad times. Sure,
you bet. All right, so there's obviously some reward in this for you. I mean, this has helped your healing process. How so?
It's just helped because it's kind of a sense of letting go. It's kind of like I have forgiven my dad's addiction now that I understand. Writing the book, I learned a lot. Oh my gosh, I learned so much about addiction and just people in general. I talked to a lot of people, interventionists, counselors. You know, I learned a lot, and yeah, I mean, it's kind of like my healing process, my peace. You know, now I have something that, even though my dad's addiction ended in tragedy, maybe my book will help other people, you know, either help themselves or help them cope with the addiction in their life.
Yeah, I don't often ask this of authors because I usually don't remember to, but it crossed my mind just now. So I'm going to ask you: have you read your book?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, I mean, after it was published and everything, you sat down and read it?
I actually did the other day because I'm about to be getting it on audiobook. And
Wonderful.
So I had to sit down and read the entire book in one night to make sure that I had everything exactly the way I wanted it.
Right. Well, good for you. I'm glad you have. I always maybe it's because I'm an egomaniac with an inferiority complex, but I always when I talk to authors or people that have made movies, say, "Oh, I never watch my movies. I never watch my TV shows. I never read my books." I'm like, well, why not?
Right.
I mean, ye gads, I would, man.
I keep my book on me all the time, actually.
What's that?
I keep my book on me all the time because I can always go to it. You know, if I'm having a bad day or something, there's you know, there's always something either that I can read and it'll make me feel better.
Right. So. One of the things that I caught right away in your writings is that you came to an understanding that this wasn't about your dad being a bad guy.
Right.
Explain that to the listeners, because some people, you know, here's the truth of the matter. Some people are saying, well, you know, just because my husband or my wife is a horse's patoot, why should I have to do any work? You know, it's their deal. It's their problem. And they're pretty mad. And I'm sure you went through some of that too. But explain to the listeners why this isn't about somebody being a bad person.
Right. I mean, honestly, nobody chooses addiction. I don't believe that. I think the people that are addicts, I think that they're pretty much blindsided by their own addiction. My dad wasn't a bad guy. He was an amazing man who had the kindest heart, and a bad addiction stole that from him. I'm mad at the addiction, not at my dad.
Right.
Now, there's moments that, yeah, I was mad at my dad for his actions, but it was because of the alcohol that was making him do those things. And so I realized, you know, he's hurting. Most addicts are hurting internally. They're not happy, you know, people who are using drugs or alcohol to smile and laugh. Most addicts are hurting. And if somebody who's hurting, they're not bad people.
Right. Right.
The choices they make, you know, may be bad, but that's not who they are. Addiction, it doesn't define people.
I thank you. I love that. It doesn't. And I, being a recovered alcoholic myself, I thought it did for so long. And then thank goodness I had a sponsor come alongside me and say, you are not defined by your illness. You aren't.
Right.
You don't go, when you have the flu, you don't go walking around saying, I have the flu, I'm sick, that's who I am, that's my makeup, that's my personality, flu.
Right.
You know, it's just something that's going on. Okay, we're gonna take our first break, and when we come back, I want to touch on this chapter, Raising Non-Addict Children. I found it very interesting. Folks, don't go away. Please don't miss this. We'll be right back.
As men and women who have recovered from utterly hopeless states of addiction ourselves, we know all too well what it's like to battle addiction daily. We are Origins Recovery Centers. Here at Origins, we have taken that which we have learned along the way, excised anything unhelpful and unnecessary, infused it with the latest medical research and innovative therapeutic methods, and created what we know to be the absolute gold standard in substance abuse treatment. And Origins provides the most preeminent aftercare and relapse prevention program available in the United States. For a free confidential clinical assessment, call toll-free 888-843-8935. That's 888-843-8935. Origins, delivering real solutions for real families.
You're listening to KHLT Recovery Broadcasting and the heart and soul of the best in recovery music.
All right, and we have returned, and my guest this week is Kathy Carniero. She is the author of the book On the Outside Looking In. Her website is www.ontheoutsidelookingin.net. Please visit the website, write it down while we're talking to you. And, of course, you follow the link here on the webpage here at take12radio.com. Remember, we are now on YouTube, LinkedIn, Google+, Facebook, Twitter. Just keep rolling off the names of social networking sites. Take 12 Radio is there. And please give us an email, a shout out at take12radio@comcast.net. Tell us what you thought about the show, if the show helped you in any way. And remember to enter our cartoon caption contest. The winner will be announced next week on Wednesday's show. Kathy, I thought this was a very interesting chapter, Raising Non-Addict Children. And the quote right after the title says, our childhood memories help create who we are, but the choices we make help create how we live. Boy, isn't that the truth? You know, I've been around the recovery rooms for about 28 years. And I have watched, it's interesting because I've watched people that are focused on the fellowship and not on the work of recovery, come in and out of these rooms, have coffee, talk about their day, and never really address the issues. And I've watched their children follow in their footsteps and end up abusing alcohol and narcotics, some of them actually becoming addicts. And then I've watched people that actually do the work, people that actually get their nose into the recovery literature. They get a sponsor, they get help, they make themselves accountable to somebody. And I've watched their children, and there seems to be a different thing going on there. Now, I understand that a person can do everything right and their kids still go off the edge. I get that. But there's something about... Well, explain to us this chapter, would you?
Yeah, absolutely. The chapter was written actually by a counselor. Her name is Pam. And I had asked her, she is a counselor for children, and so I had asked her to give her advice in my book. But the reason why I wanted her to do that was I have 3 kids. My oldest is 10. And, you know, kids are very naive. They're like little sponges.
Yeah.
And they're going to adapt to the lifestyle that they're around. And, you know, my son was young when my dad was going through his active stages of addiction, but he remembers, you know, a little bit of, you know, seeing us hustle and bustle, and, you know, he was around a couple times and we had to do some certain things for my dad, and, you know, and he heard us talking. And so I'm very open with him about addiction and alcohol and drugs. And I think, you know, kids, they're going to listen to their parents. They're also going to listen to their peers.
Right.
But I think if they're told bluntly what things are really about, you know, hopefully they can make the right decision, even though we can't control that. But I think they need to know what addiction really is and what alcohol can really do to them, you know, and what drugs, you know, how it really affects them. So the other thing, like I wanted her to write was, I believe, you know, people say addiction is a family disease.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a family disease because no one ever really talks about addiction with their kids, regardless if they have people in the family that are addicts or not.
Right.
People always say that my uncle was an addict, and so that's why my dad's an addict. And I'm thinking, well, no, because, you know, where's the bloodline? To me, my dad was never taught any other ways to deal with his life besides drinking. He didn't have any other resources. And so, I mean...
He didn't have anything to fall back on. He didn't know, I mean, when he got into it, there wasn't anything for him to reflect on to even consider another option, right?
Exactly, yeah. And then with kids, like that quote that I put, you know, I'm trying to find it in my book here. I don't have it memorized, darn it.
the quote in the beginning?
Yeah.
Let me refer
I don't even know what page it was on.
Let me refer back to that. Our childhood memories help create who we are, but the choices we make help create how we live.
Right. The reason why I put that quote there is a lot of people, you know, that I've met had parents that were addicts, and they had a choice to go with that lifestyle, or they had a choice not to go with that lifestyle. Same with abuse. I mean, if you're abused as a child, you have that mental choice to raise your children in a non-abusive home or to follow in the footsteps and abuse your children. And that's the way I look at it. You know, my dad was an addict, and I have made the choice not to follow in those footsteps. And I'm going to help my kids make the choice not to follow in that footstep.
So okay, and we know that in the beginning we can make a choice. I mean, I made a choice the day I took my first drink.
Right.
The sad thing is, and this is what I can't emphasize this enough. When I speak in front of high schools or young people, I always do a continuum thing. You know, I always say, okay, let's count 1, 2, 3, 4. Everybody stand up. Count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Or I'm sorry. Everybody sit down. Count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the fifth person stand up. And so you know, if you have a group of 300 kids or so, you know, you got quite a few people standing up. And I always tell them, this represents the people in your class, because it's 1 in 5, that if you make the choice to take the first drink, you may very well trigger a genetic disposition, and you may end up not having a choice later on. So you've got to make the choice today not to do that, because the choices you make today is going to determine how you're going to live later. Because once you've crossed over that line of addiction, then you lose the power in choice, and you're a mess. And then, of course, we know that with help, then we can get back on track. But left to our own devices, we're in trouble. So I always get people asking me, well, young people, why can't I just try some alcohol, or why can't I just try some pot? I said, because you may be that 1 in 5 that has already got something going on genetically that might trigger that, and then you're going to be in trouble. So you have to choose today what you're going to do. And I don't know. I got a buddy of mine who's just, he's a young man, just turned 21, and he's a Christian. He's on the worship team at church. He's just really right on target with so many things. And he said to me, he goes, well, it's our family tradition. When everybody turns 21, they drink, Bailey's Irish Cream. He says, I don't even like the thought of alcohol, but I'm going to do it because it's a family tradition. I said, buddy, you are playing Russian roulette. Because we don't know who the 1 in 5 is. So, gosh, it's so important to, like you said, to be honest and direct with your kids, and be blunt. Show them the statistics. Show them what's going on. Take them down to Skid Row. Let them walk with you amongst some of the people that have lost the ability to choose. Man. I'm just so happy with this book, and I know it was difficult for you to do, but so important. When we come back, do you have the book in front of you?
I do, yes.
Would you feel comfortable reading your letter to your dad?
Yeah, if I don't cry.
Okay, if you don't, I'll read it. But I always like it if the author reads it. If you feel comfortable with that, listeners, we want to do this. This is such a powerful letter. This is such a liberating letter, such a freeing letter, and what a piece of healing literature. And I'll probably cry. I cried when I read it. I read it 3 times, and I cried every time. All right, we'll be right back right after this.
Treatment does not have to be voluntary to be effective. Sanctions and enticements from family, employment settings, and or the criminal justice system can significantly increase treatment entry, retention rates, and the ultimate success of drug treatment interventions. Freedom Interventions provides the direction necessary to get the help of an addiction intervention. We assist with selecting a treatment experience appropriate for the unique needs of your addicted loved one, and provide 6 months of ongoing support to ensure success for everyone involved in the transition into real life. If you know someone who needs a life-saving intervention, visit freedominterventions.com or call 888-762-7557. That's 888-762-7557. Freedom Interventions, providing drug and alcohol interventions and a continuum of care services to clients and their families.
Serenity Springs Recovery Center, located on the beautiful east coast of Florida. A unique facility that is committed to providing exceptional individual care in small group settings while utilizing their experienced and dedicated clinical and support staff of licensed therapists and doctors. Visit their website, SerenitySpringsRecovery.com, or call 386-423-4540. Serenity Springs, making a life-changing investment into your recovery.
All right, and we return. My guest this week is Kathy Carniero. She is the author of On the Outside Looking In. This book, Surviving the Blind Side of Addiction. And her website is ontheoutsidelookingin.net. You can also follow the links here at take12radio.com. In this process of learning more about your dad and understanding addiction, understanding his alcoholism, and going through, the process, a grieving process, being accepting, being angry, depression. I mean, all the stuff we go through when a loved one is in dire straits. You wrote a letter. Was this after he had passed away?
Yes, I wrote the letter as I was writing the book, yes.
Okay. So, was this something that you thought of on your own, or did somebody suggest it?
I started it on my own because this is everything that I wish I would have been able to tell him.
Yeah.
And even though I couldn't, just me writing it, I felt like he knew what I wanted to say, and he could read it.
Right. Well, would you honor us by reading this for us?
Yes, I'll read it, but if I get choked up, you're going to have to finish it.
That's okay.
Okay. It's on page 130, and it's, Dear Daddy, there are so many things I wish I could have told you before it was your time. I forgave you and loved you when you were at your worst and your heart was weak. I never held you accountable in the end for what the addiction did to you. I know now the struggles you endured. I knew your heart and your soul. I knew you did not want this life. I knew how your pride and self-worth were so shot down from the hatefulness of society and how hard it was for you to see beyond the hurt and anger. I can surpass the anger I saw in you, though, and the sadness I saw. I can remember you when you were happy, always making jokes about everything and always being goofy, enjoying everything about life. You brightened the dark room, and you always made heads turn. I will always remember the funny dances you would do and the way you would always sing Elvis Presley and Dean Martin songs. Showing off your muscles and doing the peg dance always made us laugh. I will always remember the way you accepted us for who we were. And even though you did not agree with some of our choices we made, you always respected them and supported us. I will always remember your proud smile when all 5 of your grandchildren were born. You gave each of them your love and affection like they were your own kids. You took them on special walks, celebrated birthday parties with them, took them for ice cream and wagon rides. You took time out of your days to have special phone calls with them, and you made up funny nicknames that individualized each grandkid. They will always remember the good times you spent with them, and they talk about you still as they grow older. Everyone enjoyed being around you because you always had something funny to say or some interesting story. You taught me how to make the best peanut butter milkshakes that I will pass down to my kids and they will pass down to theirs. I know you raised me to be a good person like you were raised, and I have become that image of you. I am proud of the things you had accomplished in life, and you too were always so proud of yourself when you had done something great, always wanting to show it off and teach others how to be proud of themselves too. You taught me how to laugh and not to take things too seriously, especially when life got hard. I try to practice that kind of attitude every day. I choose to put a smile on my face every morning, no matter how I feel, because I know you would want me to. What the addiction did to you is unfair. I wish deeply we were more prepared for the road the alcohol took you down, the way it quickly stole you from us. I went to war with your addiction, and your addiction won. I live with the guilt of not being able to help you, but I know in my heart you would not want me to feel that way. So I have replaced that feeling with the feeling of hope and courage that I can help other people help themselves. I know you would be proud of me for that. You taught me how to care and be respectful of others. I think of the things you taught me and the way I was raised every day. I try to teach and raise my kids like that as well. Even though I thought you were a little strict at times, I know now it was because you loved us so much and wanted the best for us. I wish you had the knowledge of what the alcohol was going to do to you before it was too late, and had the resources to handle all the ups and downs that came into your life. I know I cannot change the past, therefore I hope to educate others about the severity of alcohol addiction and how to cope with life's downfalls. When you passed, I pray that you did not go to your grave with a sad heart. I prayed that you knew how much your family loved you and how much we cared about you. I prayed that you did not feel alone and that you held us in your heart with every last breath you took. I prayed that the angels wrapped you in their arms and hugged you tight, telling you that everything will be all right. I prayed that God opened his arms to you and forgave you of your sins and let you come into his kingdom with all the pride and self-worth you deserved. I believe strongly in what I prayed for. I have the confidence and faith that God took care of you that day. Daddy, you are my inspiration. I loved you at your worst, and I loved you at your best. You are such a strong person, and even the strongest become weak. And I promise to you I will never become weak, nor surrender my soul to addiction. I love you, your daughter, Kathy.
Oh, boy. Yeah. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
It is very clear the love you have for your dad. And I believe the good Lord communicates that with him.
Yeah.
And you know, the good book says the saints go on before and they even pray for us. You know, your dad is he's all right. And you've done a wonderful I'm tearing up now. You have done a wonderful thing for probably a lot of people that you'll never meet.
I hope so.
This letter, and I want the listeners who have loved ones that are in trouble, like your dad was, who are currently in trouble. I want them to be encouraged by this book. I want them to go back and rewind this and play this again. I want them to, more importantly, listeners, I want you to get a copy of this book. I really do. One of the ways you can get a free copy is enter the cartoon caption contest, and you could, in our grand prize, you can get a copy of this. But if you go to ontheoutsidelookinin.net, they can order this book from your website?
Yeah, they can order it through Kindle or any type of electronic device,
right,
through Amazon, or through me direct while supplies last.
And you're getting ready to come out with an audio version.
Yes, hopefully that will come out, hopefully by next year.
By next year. The reason, folks, is because some of you are listening to this right now and you're very angry with your loved one. You are in turmoil. You don't want to feel angry, but you can't help it. What you may not realize is that, and this is maybe some comfort to you, is that you're really not angry with them. You're angry with the alcoholic. You're angry with the addiction. You're angry with that beast that has become part of them. But they themselves, we understand. Kathy understands. I understand. We know you love them. And you may be in a place where you want to give up. You just can't do anything else. Let me encourage you. There's a plaque I saw years ago in somebody's bathroom that says, "After all else fails, pray." I suggest that before all else fails, pray. Prayer is a powerful, powerful thing, and it's not the prayers; it's the one we're praying to. You know, God loves you, folks. With all your warts, all your character defects, and He created you. You're His kid. So pray. Don't give up. But I want you to have a copy of this book, because here's the deal. This will help you understand the addict. This will help you understand that it's not because they're a bad guy or gal. This is the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. A lot of people don't know this, but only refers to alcoholism as a disease one time. And it is in the context of a spiritual disease. We know it's a physical illness, but there's a spiritual malady going on here. and that's just powerful. It just is. There is hope. There is a solution to this. Some people, like Kathy's dad, passed away before he experienced that solution. That's sad, but that sometimes some people pass away so the rest of us can stay sober.
Exactly.
What a tremendous gift your dad gave us. And then this gift in this book that you gave us. So I really want people to get a hold of this thing. We're going to delve into something here that is a little different. You have a chapter in here called The High, and when I emailed you, I was shaking. I struggled with addiction to methamphetamine for 18 years, and I have never, and I've read a lot, being in the business I'm in, I read a lot of books. I have never read a description of what the meth addict is going through in the process of preparing to using, and then dealing with their feelings emotionally, spiritually, mentally afterwards. I've never read a depiction of that more accurate in my life. If you're out there, listeners, and you're wondering what your loved one is going through when they use, if they're addicted to methamphetamines, if they're addicted to intravenous drugs of any kind, this is a chapter that will clear it up for you. This thing is so powerful. It had me shaking in my boots. I was right there with this gal. And my wife, I gave it to my wife. I said, we've been married for a long time, and I said, this is gonna show you what is going on in the heart and the spirit of the active addict. I'm not going to read this, listeners. I want you to read this. I can't get through this reading it out loud, but it is important that you read it. If you want to know what the true heart of the matter is for the addict, they don't want to do this. You got to get this book. I just can't say that enough. Let me ask you, how did you come to such an accurate depiction of what was going on?
Unfortunately, I have a lot of family members who are addicted to crystal meth.
Yeah.
And I wanted to know what they were going through. So, I tried to put myself in their shoes as much as possible. I tried to feel what they were feeling. And I don't know how I did this, to be honest with you. But you're the second person who has told me, oh my gosh, you have hit it dead on, and you sound like you are high when you were writing it, because
yeah.
I tried really hard, and I did a lot of research with crystal meth, and I observed users to see their actions and their faces, and I tried to internalize with them as much as I could, because I really wanted to understand how they could do this, and that's why I wrote the chapter as a high, because that's how I feel they feel.
Yep.
And I think I'm feeling everything that they feel without using.
This is what I would call a work of anointing. I believe God's hand was on you when you wrote this thing. I mean, there is no way a person that's never experienced this could describe it so accurately without providence. I mean, this is amazing. And like I said, it's the first time I've read, and I've read a lot of descriptions of the high, but this one, yeah, really good, really good. So we don't want to leave the listeners without a solution, right?
Right.
The chapter, Finding Faith in Prayer. The quote, forgiving yourself is the biggest step in believing yourself. What happened? Did you have a spiritual connection with God before all this? And if you did, how did it change? Or can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, I did, but I don't think it was as strong as it is now.
Yeah.
During his addiction, I prayed a lot, but I wasn't praying for the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't praying the right way either. And so I learned, you have to have faith, and you have to understand that what is happening for a reason. We might not understand why. We'll never understand, and we may not like it. But it happened for a reason. Kind of like what I say in that chapter is, I believe God chose my dad because he was such a good person to show people that addiction can happen to anybody. And I believe that he chose me to help spread the word that, we need to be more aware of addiction, and there's ways that people can save themselves from addiction. And so I have a strong faith in that. I think this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah.
Yeah, you say, I believe prayer has a big impact if you're a believer, but you have to believe in what you're praying for. Exactly. And then italics, do not be like the waves in the ocean that go the way the wind blows. Believe in what you ask your Father in heaven, and be strong in faith. Faith is what we hope for, but do not see. So be thankful in the knowledge that God is listening and wants you to trust Him, not what things appear. Appearances are deceiving. There's a chapter in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous that says we have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. Listen to those words, my friends. Recovered. If the obsession to drink or use has been lifted, you're a recovered alcoholic. You're not recovering. You're not in recovery. You have recovered. That's what the literature says. You don't have to agree with that, but that's what it says. God wants to move us from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body to a place of deliverance, a place of healing, and a place of wholeness. It says seemingly because that's the way it appears at the time. But, I have a friend, a colleague, Neil Scott, that has Recovery Coast to Coast up in Seattle, and he says, how many chances do you give an alcoholic? The answer is as many as it takes. And you certainly have shown that love to your dad. And what is so great about this book and about what you've done, Kathy, is that you continue to love your dad. And there is hope, folks. Finding Faith in Prayer, the chapter Finding Faith in Prayer. Again, so important to read this stuff. I want to give you a chance to make some closing comments, but one of my favorite pieces in here is in the author's note. Life is like a puzzle. Now, I remember when I was first entered the rooms of my particular 12-step fellowship, and I had a sponsor that he saved my life. And I said, man, I've got this pile. This. I mean, it's like I'm living in this huge pile of junk. Like if you filled up my bedroom with junk and you couldn't even move in it. I said, I don't know where to start. And this reminded me of him. He said, pick a place. He said, pick one item and clean it up. Just begin. And and not look at the entire mess. Just start in one corner. I want to read this. Can I read this, Kathy? Is that okay?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. This says if you're in a quandary and you're looking around and it seems too overwhelming for you, listeners, check this out. Life is like a puzzle. At first, the pieces are scattered all around you with unorganized confusion. You slowly start to create the outline of the puzzle as your guide. The outline creates your boundaries and securities. Sound familiar? If you ever put a puzzle together, that's usually what we do. Now you need to fill the inner part of the puzzle, your life. You find a matching piece right away. It was such a relief, but then you look at the other 100 pieces lying there hopelessly. You pick up another piece, inspecting its outer shape and the colors that make up its design. You try to place it, but cannot find it fits. As you encounter many frustrations and stress, you start to feel defeated by this one puzzle piece. Putting that piece down for a while, you grab another, finding the perfect fit almost right away. Avoiding the pieces that you know will cause you stress, you try to pick out the obvious fitting ones first. As you put the puzzle together, you start to feel anxious because you know you will soon have to find the fit to the harder pieces. You take a break. You sit back and stare at what you have accomplished so far. Amazed with yourself for all your hard work, you pick up the one piece you gave up on earlier. Struggling with this piece, you start to question yourself. Why can't I find the right fit? Should I just give up and be done with the puzzle? Is this puzzle even worth all this work? You stare at the piece and at the puzzle. Feeling overwhelmed, you try to force the piece to fit. No luck. Getting frustrated with yourself and the puzzle piece, you put it down once again, picking up an easier fitting piece. This piece fits perfectly. As time passes, the puzzle is almost complete. Even though it is starting to look beautiful, you have experienced frustration, stress, and anxiety. You felt defeated and even thought about giving up at one point. You look again at the one piece that has been giving you so much trouble. Again, you pick it up, staring at it, trying to figure out the shape and the colors. You stare blindly at the almost completed puzzle, then all of a sudden you see it, the perfect fit. You have defeated the one piece you almost gave up on. All it took was a little hard work, patience, and not giving up, for the other pieces to fill in, for the hard pieces to fit. Finally, your beautiful puzzle is complete. What I'm trying to say is through your journey in life, it will be beautiful, hard, and stressful. All the pieces may not come together perfectly or at one time, but with patience and never giving up, in the end, it will all come together, creating something so beautiful, it was all worth it. Wow. That is great. And that's exactly what we do. My wife was cracking up because she likes to do puzzles. Her mom did them all the time. And, if we'll just start, if we'll just make the approach to this thing, and start putting the pieces that fit together, then the more and more we go, that piece that was so hard, that finishing piece, it becomes obvious. Wow, there's only one space left. This is the piece that goes there. And all of a sudden, the thing that was baffling us so severely, we get a clear picture of. And I got to tell you, Kathy, I really appreciate that part of the book. It gives hope.
Thank you.
Any last thoughts or comments from you?
Just, don't give up. Don't give up on yourself. Don't give up on your loved one that's struggling with addiction, because there is hope and there are a lot of positive outcomes. I strongly believe, though, that understanding this and educating yourself will help anybody out there who is struggling.
Well, hey, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show and share your experience, strength, and hope, and this book with our listeners. I appreciate it so much, Kathy.
Yeah, thank you for for having me. I enjoyed it.
You bet. Folks, the website is on the outsidelookinin.net. Please get yourself a copy of this book. It will encourage you. You'll cry, you'll get real serious, you'll become aware, you'll learn, and it'll help you do more than just cope. We want to do more than just cope in life. We want to succeed, and this will help you get through some pretty tough times if this is something that is affecting you. Addiction afflicts and affects almost everybody on the planet. And wouldn't it be great if everybody on the planet got a copy of this book and was encouraged by it? So go to ontheoutsidelookinin.net, get the book from Kathy, and you can contact her on that website as well. Kathy, it's been an absolute pleasure. Stay on the line. Folks, don't forget our email address, take12radio@comcast.net. Enter the cartoon caption contest by clicking on Recovery Cartoons at take12radio.com. You can win a copy of this book. All right, my friends. Hey, listen, until our next broadcast, this is the Monty'man, along with my guest, Kathy Carniero, and we're wishing God's perfect serenity for you. Bye-bye now.
This has been a broadcast of KHLT Recovery Broadcasting.
Kitty, 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 kitty.